It really feels like the world is cracking at the seams, doesn't it? I mean, from these crazy headlines to economic uncertainty, the pressure is it's everywhere. But is this all just random chaos, or is there some kind of pattern hiding in plain sight? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dive into a pretty powerful framework for trying to make sense of it all. So, the source material we're looking at today points to three massive forces that are shaping our world right now. First up, you've got scarcity. This feeling that everything from housing to basic resources is just getting tighter. Then there's disclosure, where powerful, long-held secrets are suddenly being forced out into the open. And finally, convergence, this trend where global institutions all seem to be marching to the beat of the same drum. You've got to understand these three trends, because they're the key to unlocking the whole story. And that really gets us to the heart of the matter, right? Is all of this chaos we're living through part of some hidden, coordinated plan by a secret group of elites? Or are we just watching an incredibly complex system buckle under its own weight? The sources we're digging into offer two completely different ways to answer that very question.
Okay, so before we can even begin to explore the why, we have to get a solid handle on the what. Let's break down each of these three big trends that are causing so much friction in the system right now.
First on the list is something the source calls a disclosure shock. Now, this isn't just your average leak. We're talking about a massive, sudden flood of sensitive information that just completely overwhelms the official story. The ongoing release of the Epstein files, that is a perfect real-world example. It's like this giant injection of chaotic truth that institutions just can't process fast enough.
Next up, we have scarcity stabilization. This is what happens when major policies and huge amounts of capital start to concentrate control and, well, limit your options. Think about it. Soaring housing costs that basically force you into becoming a lifelong renter, or trade policies that restrict where you can travel and what you can buy. The bottom line, it leads to less freedom and personal autonomy for you. And rounding out our big three is institutional convergence. This is that growing alignment of policies you see across different countries and even different industries. A really key example is this idea of a unified ledger from the Bank for International Settlements. It's basically a proposal for a shared global system for money and assets. It's a definite move towards a more centralized and standardized world. So we've got disclosure, scarcity, and convergence. Got it. Now, let's look at them through our first lens. A grounded, almost academic analysis of a system that's under an immense amount of pressure. Now, this is so important to get about this first lens. It is not about hunting for secret cabals or conspiracy theories. Not at all. It's all about analyzing publicly available documents and behaviors that we can actually see. It's not about what's hidden. It's about understanding what's happening right out in the open. And what's really powerful about this approach is that it makes predictions that we can actually go out and test. For example, it hypothesizes that the more big disclosures we see, the more public trust is going to bounce all over the place. Or that when the system is stressed, policies will naturally start to reduce our individual options, like favoring renting over owning a home. It's an attempt to be truly scientific about the whole problem. So, the main takeaway from this first perspective is pretty clear. The chaos we're all feeling isn't some mastermind secret plan. It's more like the predictable, almost physical reaction of our global structures bending and groaning under stress they were never designed to handle. It's just system dynamics, plain and simple. But what if that's not the whole story? What if that's too simple? The first lens is rational, it's grounded. But what if we need a totally different kind of map to navigate this territory? One that's maybe less about political science and more about the fundamental nature of reality itself. And that, my friends, brings us to lens 2. Now, I gotta say, this is not a scientific theory. This is a metaphorical framework, a completely different kind of tool that's designed to help us spot hidden patterns in all the noise. This lens uses the ancient metaphor of Plato's cave. It basically argues that our daily news, our politics, all of it, it's just shadows on the wall. So those disclosure shocks we were just talking about, well, in this view, they're like a glitch in the simulation, a moment where the system breaks down and we're forced to see the reality that's actually casting the shadows. It's a shock to your whole sense of what's real. And you can see exactly how this framework operates right here. It creates a whole new vocabulary for old ideas. So a negative feedback loop becomes a Xenotrap, a problem you can never quite solve. The media world we all live in, that becomes the render, and the major transnational figure, like a top central banker, gets called a journeyman. It's a language literally designed to make you see the world differently. Now, here's what's fascinating. Even this highly metaphorical, kind of wild view doesn't land on some evil cabal pulling the strings. Nope. Instead, it gets to a pretty similar conclusion through a very different path. The chaos is seen as, well, thermodynamic friction. It's the heat that gets generated when an old, clunky analog system tries and fails to run new, super-fast digital code. It's just overheating.
This framework even proposes a specific cyclical timeline. It sees the modern nation-state as a kind of operating system that runs on a 250-year cycle that, well, is ending right about now. It even points to a symbolic date, August 12, 2026, as a moment of phase inversion, or a fundamental system reset. And it's so important to remember, this is presented as a metaphor, not a literal prophecy.
So, where does that leave us? We have two very, very different models trying to explain the same chaotic reality. One is all about science, the other is all about metaphor. How in the world do we reconcile them? Well, let's put them side by side.
And honestly, this slide might be the most important one in this whole explainer. You see, the two lenses aren't even competing for the same prize. The goal of lens 1 is scientific, to create testable hypotheses based on public data. The goal of lens 2 is interpretive, to offer a new language for finding patterns and making personal sense of overwhelming events. One is for analysis, the other is for meaning.
So the crucial takeaway is this. These are not competing truths. They're just different tools for different jobs. Lens 1 is like the engineer's toolkit. It's for analyzing the mechanics of the system. Lens 2, on the other hand, is like the philosopher's guide. It's for navigating the personal meaning of it all.
So, in the end, maybe the most important question we should be asking isn't who's in control. Maybe the much more empowering question is, what's in my control? Because when you're faced with this level of chaos, the only real choice you have is the lens you decide to use to understand it.